I'm going to be introducing the next speaker, who I don't know very well, so I've been asked to read from the toothbrush. Bob Armstrong, since retiring in 1995, he's been collecting, restoring, and selling old puzzles, along with organizing puzzle parleys, not parlays, mentoring new puzzle enthusiasts, writing articles, and giving presentations. He also hosts a large information-oriented website on puzzles at oldpuzzles.com. Bob will introduce you to two highly sought-after brands and challenge you to examine and compare them. For the whole Saturday session, you will be able to get a close-up look at, I think about 32 stunning Pastime and Par puzzles on display right here on the outside of the room. So turn around.
Now, can you hear me? Because one thing my wife was saying is I've got to be heard. Shove the microphone down my throat, okay? We have here a question, and that is, would you pay 8 times more for the puzzles down at that end of the room compared to what's here? Those are the custom cut parts. These are the commercially cut pastimes. Now, how did I come up with 8? That's an estimation. I bought 32 pars back around the turn of the century from one person. A good number of them are featured here. And I knew what he was paying at that time. It's a little over $200 a puzzle. Okay? And so with an 800-piece par, he'd probably pay $220, something like that. And the Pastimes, of course, we have the lists. They actually publish lists with prices on them. Par is all a big secret. Big secret. Even John Madden may not know. In any event, so we have the best of the commercially cut puzzles versus the best of the, did I get this right? Custom cut puzzles. Conrad will correct me if I mixed up here. Now, Parker Brothers marketed Pastime puzzles from 1908 to 1958. And by the way, my information is all courtesy of the Ann Waynes, of course. We figured one time about 800 to 900,000 Pastimes were probably made, sold on the market. Only women, if you know, cut Pastime puzzles. You men are incompetent. Get that? The real reason, of course, is they could hire the women piecework, but they were clever. They were good. Now, they were given autonomy on the shop floor. That's a fancy term. They didn't have men hanging over them, telling them what to do. Okay? And the women like that. Get rid of the men, and you'll have a very productive workforce. Okay? Mess with them. Throw them out of the room. In any event, women were required to cut 1,400 puzzle pieces a day. Again, Anne, I hope that's correct. And they would have to have a figure piece about every 12 puzzle pieces. Okay? And they should do some color line cutting. The early Pastimes, remember they started in 1908, had a great deal of color line cutting. I love color line cutting. I actually prefer the earlier Pastimes. The later Pastimes have especially well-done figure pieces. And the girls, and by the way, they call themselves the girls. My mother called herself and her closest female friends the girls. That's not a sexist term. You understand that? No, you don't. You don't believe it. I can tell. You'll be sorry you said it. Oh, no. Remember, I've argued cases in federal courts of appeals across the country. And if you think you have a tough time, you try to get 6 judges up there all asking you questions at the same time. The later pastimes were particularly great figure pieces. The girls, they created their own pieces. They would then fold a piece of paper and, like a child, cut around it. And they created these gorgeous figure pieces. Nan tells me that the girls, the better ones, could take a silhouette of a figure piece, hold it on the puzzle, and cut around it at the same time. I don't know a single cutter today that do that. David, can you do that? Haven't tried, okay. Try it sometime. I tried it, ignominious failure. Now, the pars that I'm talking about, no, I'm going to save that for a little bit later. Now we're going to switch it back here. And I'm going to talk about a few. I actually need someone to hold up a puzzle or two, okay? Which one? Okay. Let's start. There is Robin Hood. G. Okay? Robin Hood came to me a mess because it had like 5 pieces missing, and they had tried to make replacement pieces. And in the process, they further damaged the puzzles. And so I've had to go over that whole thing. This is not uncommon. I prefer puzzles coming to me that have not been tinkered with by, excuse me, I love the word amateurs. Okay? And I think that the artwork of Robin Hood up here shooting the arrows is just really, okay? So that's why I keep that. The partners were, of course, Frank Ware and John Enriquez, New York City. Par. Oh, that's still Par. You're right. Thank you. Got to keep this decided. Should have had 2 sheets of paper. Let's take a look at the 2 picture puzzle mark here. I think this is a gorgeous one. Rosa actually exists in town and in Germany, and it's cut for Josephine Flood. Josephine Flood, who ran the picture puzzle mark in New York City back in the 1930s. And the legend has it, she knew the contact or somehow or other select the better pastime colors. So the figure pieces tend to be more elaborate, more elegant, better cut. And there's another one too here. Those are probably the 2 best cut pastime puzzles. Another one I particularly like because of the ending is Abraham. Now, I don't know how much history people study, but I was an American Studies major at Harris College, okay? And his last year was a very difficult year for Abraham. Everything was going wrong. The battlefield was, we're struggling, losing huge numbers of men, equipment, and this is delivering the Gettysburg Address. It has a brilliant piece of writing about it. So he was under a lot of pressure, and he had domestic pressure. And I could see him alone. You get the sense that he's alone? I do. Or is it my imagination? He's just alone there. He was alone his last year, basically. Thank God he won the election. Of course, it led to his death. Switching tracks here. As I said, now we can have real fun. Let's start with this one. I actually personally assembled this one when it came in. And I couldn't figure out where the hell the panther was going to go. Because it's the largest animal. It should go behind the tigers, or in front of the tigers, and also be up here. But I couldn't figure it out. I had this part completed, just couldn't do it. Stumped me for about a day or so before I finally figured out that art is moved it up to the top, and okay, that's what I like about this. See what I mean? Now I'm going to show you, I think, the silliest puzzle I've ever seen. The title of this is, we're talking cards. What Maggie wore. Now, who the hell cares what Maggie wore when she's in a cage with 4 hungry, or they look hungry to me, tigers? Is it 4 or 5? I can't count. I mean, think about that. Well, the Par Partners put some silly titles on some of it. Now, let's go to the Par Partners. They were, of course, Frank Ware and John Henry. This is cut from 1931 to about 1980. Okay? And there's a successor to them. I think the first was Gallagher. And then somebody by the name of John Madden.
Yes, I heard.
Have you heard about that? Good. Okay. He, instead of marketing puzzles as cheaply as possible, they marketed expensive puzzles to the top of the market. Hollywood, Broadway stars, European royalty, wealthy families, and they were willing to add personalization, especially cutting the intended owner's initials, and a fancy monogram into their puzzles. And they were brilliantly successful from a business perspective. These men not only were good, fine puzzle cutters and collectors of artwork, etc., they were businessmen as well. However, our puzzles are notoriously difficult to assemble. We just did a great big one out here, 1,800 pieces. I saved it. I couldn't assemble that. It'd take 2 weeks probably. But you people did it in about 2 days. Like that. Mainly because of their Y-shaped knobs. I call them earlets. Y-shaped knobs, which are so similar in shape. But this is offset to some extent by assembling around their very distinctive figure pieces, wonderful figure pieces in them. And then one of them has pulled the figure pieces out. I don't like doing this. I think it ruins the picture. So, we've got figure pieces here. If you want to see them, well, most of you are familiar with them. Par used copies of artwork, well-known artists at the time, as well as copies of travel and theater pictures. This one over here is travel. See, Pastimes, for example, used also more humorous historical scenes. Now, as we go through these, remember, Pars cost 8 times the Pastime. How many of you are willing to pay 8 times more for a par than a Pastime? Only that one? Well, I buy my napkins if I can, by the way. So most of you are wealthy enough to pay 8 times more? Or which one? How would I ask? So would you prefer a cheaper pastime? No one raised their hand.
I want 8 cheaper pastimes instead of 1.
Or a more elegant par? That's the question. 8 times. Think of that. And by the way, that difference pretty much exists down to the second-hand market today. And I do know the second-hand market since I buy large batches of clothes. So, my wife knows this one here because of the artist. Who's the artist? Merlin?
Ralph Cahoon. Ralph Cahoon.
Calhoun. Cape Cod artist. Very popular, made a lot of money by the way. That's our. This one shows the RGH. That's Ruth G. Hodgkins, the wife of the man after he died. He bought 32 cars. Bought all his cars. Okay? Now, that actually is a Blackfeet chief. And he's very, he's in the history books. And the reason why I relate to that, can you hear it? My wife's the reason I relate to that is I have 4 Native American grandchildren. Can anyone else equal that? Come on. What a dull audience. That'll sober you up thinking about that one. Not raised on the reservation often, close by. They, the children, your favorite. What, tell them why it's your favorite?
Just a great balance of colors and the way the coral sticks out of the upper and the edge. It's just a great choice of print and composition of the element.
Obviously a keeper, okay? marching band figures. Now, Ann Williams has one, the same picture, but the figures, the marching band, are cut from the bottom. Right in. I think that's a tremendous use of what I call dropouts, creating figures. But, obviously, the keeper.
I'll admit, after assembling this, it inspired me to, when I cut the bear puzzle that he showed, I had a parade of bears at the top of it. So my large drawouts, this inspired me to do that.
I actually bought this at Brimfield Flea Market. Okay? Believe me, there's a market for pars that have Christmas themes. I've been offered some real bucks for that. Wonderful. Now, I get upset when I realize that a family has lost interest, meaning contact with the past. Here is a puzzle that has more personalization in it than any that I'm aware of. When P of B, I can't even figure it out, was won and wed, but this is the farm. Their farm, going out to the farm, all the children are named and their ages. Okay? Now that is personalization, good Lord. And so the family apparently just disappeared. They let that go. Came on the market. I picked it up. Sorry, at least it's got a good home, but I'm not the family involved in that. It's a Southern family. Yeah, I know. You saw versions with the more cut on the top. Yesterday, okay? The strong material. That's a travel book. You can pick up this information if you use Google Art or something like that, whatever it's called. No, questions?
Any questions? But I also will first say he put a lot of time in researching either the scene that's happening and describing the historical scene or the artist. So do read these placards, the labels, and take a lot of information. I find it very interesting. Any questions?
When you purchased or acquired the lot of 32 puzzles, were they already assembled or did you have to assemble those?
When he acquired the lot of 32 pars, did they come assembled or in pieces and boxes?
No, we had to assemble them. That does take time. If you want to check my hourly rate of what I'm worth in terms of what I put into puzzles, and the restoration is extreme, particularly the restoration of the broken, split, chipped knobs. That takes longer than replacing pieces. As general rule, I time myself on this with a batch of replacement pieces to the batch stuff. And I can understand why no one wants to do that. But it cleans up a puzzle, makes it look really good. And that's my goal. And the puzzles that I can release for sale, hopefully achieve that goal. So you're getting, the prices can be bid up pretty high, but people know they're getting quality puzzles. They're not getting, I could use a four-letter word, I won't.
All right, thank you, Bob Armstrong, for the administration.
One summary here. One last thing.
If you're impressed with beautiful artwork and domestic figure pieces of a custom cut part, are you willing to pay 8 times more than for a comparable custom? In the past, most audiences have said no. I think this audience is more likely to pay. John has a good buy your puzzles, okay? So they're willing to spend some money, Jim.
They've got a lot of money, some of these people.
Good. I didn't say that.
Is lunch ready?